How is it that in a world of AI frame generation, virtual reality, and hyper-realistic digital foliage, the most immersive gaming accessory is still a $2 notebook from a discount store? And I'm not talking about using your imagination in a pen and paper role-playing game. I'm saying that the most immersive tool for video gaming in 2026 is still a pen and paper. For those of us who can't bring ourselves to look up the solutions to puzzles or the strategies to defeat bosses, the notebook still remains the most useful tool. Some of us have pages of hand-drawn maps, of virtual worlds, or lists of reminders to return to an area after progressing elsewhere. Dark Souls lore enthusiasts have entire mind palaces, which they use to piece together the many shattered stories that run through From Software games. I don't know what to call them other than notebook games. Games that almost necessitate the use of a real-world piece of paper in order to complete or understand them. These games require active attention. They ask something of you, the player. They ask you to participate. They've been around for a long time, and against all industry odds, they occasionally still get made today. These are your Mists, your Ribbons, your Obra Dinns, your Tunics, and your Chants of Sennaar. Lots of games can be notebook games if you try hard enough, but the best ones, in my opinion, allow you to complete the game without it. But if you really want to get it, or if you want to actually fully complete them, they are pretty much required. See, you could just go online and look up the solutions, but doing so would defeat the entire purpose of playing in the first place. Let's talk about some of these so we're all on the same page. See what I did there? And look, we'll do a little page wipe transition here. That's nice. Notebooks. You guys know Mist and Ribbon, right? These were point-and-click games in the 90s that dominated the market. They are not for kids. They're not for some adults even. In Myst, there are some very famous puzzles that require a lot of reading to understand the world, and Ribbon is notorious for requiring players to essentially learn a foreign mathematical system. And these games do not help you to pay attention. There are no pop-ups, no maps, no logs or journals to help you keep track of your discoveries. Logging your findings is entirely your burden to bear. In Chants of Sennaar, a most beautiful indie title, the game tasks you with deciphering several unique languages in order to solve every puzzle. And these languages all have their own quirks and rules, just like real language. It's much more complicated than random glyph X equals the letter A. There are different syntactic rules that are unique to each language you discover. In Tunic, you play as a cute little fox character in what appears to be a Zelda clone, but looks can be deceiving. While playing, you realize that what started out as a palatable, breezy little adventure game is actually a grand cryptographic mystery that forces you to treat the pause menu like the Rosetta Stone. I'd say more, but the secrets of these games are something that you will want to uncover for yourself. I remember vividly the exact moment this desire to build my own handmade resources took over. It was when I first picked up Amnesia: The Dark Descent, a horror game with sprawling, pitch-black, maze-like level designs. I got so fed up with being hopelessly lost that I sat down and grabbed a sheet of paper and manually started charting my way out. This act, while initially somewhat tedious, became a labor of love. And did I really need to do this? No, not really. I just wanted to. But the act of physically drawing the map anchored me into that fictional space. It turned a stressful, terrifying environment into a space I could master, and that act allowed the game to leave a lasting impression on me. If you know me, you know I like to play a wide variety of games, and while I love being sucked into a world that demands my absolute focus, I also like to zone out and just kill stuff. But it's this exact contrast in modern design that forced me to notice something. Consuming video games is sort of identical to consuming food. There's food that requires some teeth, nutritious stuff that actually provides lasting sustenance, And then there's food that is engineered to be hyper-palatable. Fast food. When I play something like Destiny 2 or any high-octane shooter replete with glittering waypoints and cinematic cutscenes, it's like, yeah, I'm technically playing a game, but it requires almost zero cognitive effort to actually consume it. It's designed to go down easy, and that makes it very easy to overindulge. And then you have the games that are honestly just movies wearing a mask. Titles like the newly released Mixtape. Beautiful, highly stylized, hyper-curated, aesthetic cotton candy that treats you like a passenger on a luxury theme park ride. The ride is fun while you're on it, but it melts in the mouth, and before you even realize it, it's gone. Now, this isn't to say your gaming diet can't include titles that are hyper-palatable. I'm of the opinion that it's okay to indulge in the fast food side of the medium every once in a while, but what I am saying is that these titles, no matter how much budget or marketing effort is poured into them, will never have the same staying power. Because every great piece of art requires risk. And in the medium of interactive software, the ultimate artistic risk a developer can take is the risk of losing the player's attention entirely. With a game like Mixtape, there is almost zero risk. It's a tightly controlled, 3-hour experience engineered to dazzle the eyes and cash in on a curated wave of nostalgia. It is an aesthetic amusement park ride, where the safety bar is locked firmly over your lap at all times. You are completely safe from ever getting lost, confused, or frustrated or stuck because you aren't actually driving the car. And let me be clear, it is good that Mixtape exists. Sometimes that is what people want out of interactive media, and that is totally fine. There are plenty of other examples of movie games that people love, that I love, like Heavy Rain, Until Dawn, Detroit Become Human, and Indigo Prophecy. But Hell is Us? It steps up to the edge of the cliff and willingly puts its entire existence on the line. The developers at Robe Factor understood that a player might get frustrated. They knew that a player might get hopelessly lost, throw their hands up in disgust, and return the game for a refund. But they took the leap anyway. Because if we're sticking with our culinary analogy, Hell is Us is a tough, bitter root vegetable. It takes a lot longer to chew, and it forces you to work for every single bite, but it provides the kind of raw, uncompromising artistic sustenance that stays with you long after the screen goes black. Hell is Us is a deceptive game. It hides behind the ever-popular Souls-like genre because initially, that's what it appears to be. It features target lock combat, a dodge mechanic, a variety of weapon and skill upgrades, and other classic RPG mechanics. While these systems are robust, they are simply not the focus of this game. Hell is Us is set in a fictional country called Hadia in the early 90s. Hadia is deep in a countrywide civil war between two religious groups, the Palamists and the Sabinians. Media and propagandists have fanned the flames of hatred between these two groups, who already have a long history of conflict spanning over thousands of years. On top of this, a supernatural event mysteriously referred to as the Calamity has torn open the fabric of reality itself, causing creatures of concentrated human emotion to pour into the world, wreaking further havoc. One of the first things you discover about Hell is Us is that it's actually a mystery game, masquerading as a Souls-like. Every notable NPC has a backstory and will require certain items from the player. Exploring the various locations of Hadia will reveal puzzle after puzzle, secret after secret. And the most wonderful part of all of this is that the game trusts you to solve these puzzles yourself. There is no minimap, no yellow paint, no waypoints, no journal, no logbook, only your current investigation, which features a web of interconnected nodes which have some relevance to each other. But it is entirely up to the player to connect the dots and make the final understanding. And even when that final link is found and the investigation is finished, there's no cutscene that pulls everything together. because the player has just done that themselves. The game immediately moves along because its job is already complete. This kind of design is the ultimate form of respect. If the player cannot solve the various puzzles through their understanding of Hadia and its history, there is simply no way to progress. Simply put, understanding this game almost certainly requires a notebook. This means that Rogue Factor accepts that there is a possibility that a sizable portion of the people who play Hell Is Us will never see many aspects of their game, which has clearly been crafted meticulously and intentionally, down even to the little rooms of vacant houses and overlooked corners of cavern walls. The game demands your executive function completely. And in a world where the average attention span is decreasing every year, where interactive media has been pared down to a Skinner's box or a steady dopamine drip, this kind of design is like the ultimate middle finger to the status quo. It says no. People are not animals to be exploited. We are intelligent. We desire meaning. We desire purpose. The messages of Hell Is Us reverberate throughout its story like a deep drone, unnoticeable at first, but impossible to ignore by the time it concludes. To see how exactly this uncompromising design functions on the ground, we will travel to the Akasa Marshes, to a small border town called Jova, where the brutality of human suffering can be witnessed on the most intimate level, to the forgotten underground ruins, which hide two unlikely survivors. When you first hear the infant's cry, it is yet another dash upon the soul. At this point in the game, we have already borne witness to some unspeakable, horrible acts of man. But this is a child. There is no option to leave the call unanswered. Here sits the worried woman, cradling a child that is not her own. She found and cradled poor Uli, even though he's a child of the opposing religious faction, and even though his cries would betray their location to the occupying enemy soldiers above. Yet still, in an ultimate act of human grace, she tends to him.
I've been hiding down here ever since. The soldiers up there wouldn't hesitate to gun down a Palomist woman, especially one who cares for us being in baby.
Uli is starving to death. She gives you his empty bottles. It's at this exact moment that the action Souls-like mask slips, and you're forced to change how you interact with the game. Now, in a conventional modern game, the second you accept this task, a glowing objective marker would appear on your screen, the main character would say something painfully derivative and contrived to himself, and you would begin following the GPS line on your minimap to the objective. You'd return with your quest item, and your character would be surrounded by a brilliant shining light, accompanied by a level up screen, and you would be awarded a little drop of dopamine for your troubles. But not here in war-torn Hadia. The woman thanks you, a message pops up, good deed accomplished, and you continue on your way. And the only way you could come across the solution to this puzzle is by using your own eyes to notice something that would otherwise be an unremarkable piece of set dressing. In fact, the entire game is full of environmental storytelling that you simply wouldn't recognize as such until you realize exactly what kind of game this is. But if I'm being perfectly honest with you, it isn't the story of poor Uli which pushed me to break out the notebook. That was just the training wheels. As I pushed deeper into Hadia, my notebook became my iconographic and historical ledger. Look at what I have on screen right now. Hell Is Us doesn't just refuse to hold your hand. When you encounter ancient ruins and underground crypts, the symbols on the walls are not just set dressings. They mean something. If you want to understand why Hadia is in its civil conflict, you must build the timeline yourself. It wasn't long after my experience in Jova that I found myself drawing out a timeline from the very founding of Setherism to the most recent terror attacks. I could no longer look at the ancient murals, architecture, and symbols as background noise. I had to sketch these out by hand. I had to guess their meaning. This is where the hidden aspect of the game takes shape. By practically forcing me to use a notebook to collect my discoveries, the world of Hell Is Us became a living being in which I was an active participant. It was as though I was an archaeologist, unearthing the many mysteries of the past which were left in the dirt. Suddenly, I had real stakes in the story. Because I had to physically write all this stuff out, I had to think about it on a completely different level than I would have if I was just staring at the screen playing a game. It was something that I began carrying around in my mind long after I turned the game off. I found myself thinking about real-world conflicts, religion, and history in ways that I hadn't before. It made me eager to play the game more to see how Rogue Factor would handle the ending. But why does any of this matter? Why am I pontificating at you and using expensive words like pontificating about a cheap notebook in a cool game? Simply put, we are being farmed. You know this, I know this. And each year, we get more hyper-realistic, Unreal Engine live service trash with intentionally addictive mechanisms designed to trap us inside them. We are being fed a steady pre-masticated diet of hyper-palatable dopamine, and just like how some people have a hard time controlling their cravings for fast food, a lot of us, myself absolutely included, have a hard time controlling our cravings for video game dopamine. But we do not have to let ourselves be livestock. Let me challenge you, and challenge myself. Let us demand more from the media we consume. But more importantly, let us demand more from ourselves. The next time you find yourself endlessly scrolling, searching for a game that will finally satisfy you, remember the hard truth. There is no algorithm, no video game that can fully satisfy you. And look, it's always okay to just enjoy what you enjoy. Balance is everything. Just make sure the easy stuff isn't getting in the way of the parts of your life that matter infinitely more: your friends, your family, your loved ones, and your duties. But when you're shopping for games, remember who you are. Because we aren't just animals to be exploited for screen time. We are intelligent. We desire meaning and purpose. Write down your own notebook games in the comments below and tell us about your experience. Like this video if I earned it. Subscribe if you really liked it. I am Rupert McDupert. I'll see you in the next one.